Thank everybody for being here today. Good opening segment, 49-minute long opening segment. All right. So appreciate all you being here. We're going to get to our super chats right now. And then I got a big topic for hour two, one that I think could create some debate in the chat. We will see what you guys think of it. All right. Appreciate you guys all being here today. Theo Bear. What's up, Theo? Our first super chat of the day was from Theo. He said this. Cosell said his sources said Lurie was pissed and that they are challenging Jalen with this new offense. No more coddling of the quarterback.
Well, I don't know what Greg said, but I'm on board that they've told everybody that this is the way we're going. So get on the train or don't get on the train. But if you don't get on the train, you're going to be left at the station. So that's how I kind of take it. I don't think Jalen's ever been coddled. I don't think that's fair. But yeah, I mean, look, on paper, this does not seem to be the offense that fits Jalen Hurts. Now, I know there's a lot of people that think he can do whatever he wants if he sets his mind to it. And maybe they're right. And you're going to see. If that's what I'm doing, I would go in a different direction.
We'll talk more about that, John, in hour number two here. Here's Riot. What's up, Riot? Yo, J-Mac, you got a shout out on the Jim Cornette podcast regarding an article you posted on Twitter about the Tony Khan, Nick Piccolo situation.
Yeah, that's a shit show, by the way.
I'm not sure what it is. You'd have to let me know.
Tony is obviously Tony's Tony. He, owns AEW for people that don't know, the wrestling company, which is sort of like, the number two brand, the Pepsi to WWE's Coke, so to speak, although, let's give it on too much credit, but
yeah, Pepsi's a little bigger. Yeah, for sure.
But, challenger brand, as Tony would describe it. Nick is an agent who's very outspoken, Eagles fan, by the way, huge Eagles fan, who, reps everybody from CM Punk to Drew McIntyre to Tiffany Stratton, a lot of high profile people in the industry. Liv Morgan, he's an agent for all those people and many others, including Roman Reigns, the biggest star in the business. And they don't like each other. And Nick spends a lot of his time ripping Tony. Now, Tony generally stays above it, as he should, as the owner. But there are underlings who, it's ugly. And he's made a lot of accusations about burner accounts and Brian Colangelo-like stuff. So I did get information that he tried to get Nick fired. And I said, to me, that's a story, but I don't cover wrestling. So it's not like, so I put it on my Twitter, but I got the information and you can read the story on Twitter if you want to. It's very complicated, but basically Tony or somebody close to Tony got Bernie Cahill, who's a big time Hollywood agent, to try to get Nick fired. And the way I looked at it, if this were the NFL, it's like Jerry Jones trying to get Drew Rosenhaus fired. That's a story. That'd be a story.
Right.
So I gotta, and that's why I wrote the story. That's why it's a big story. But yeah, wrestling people are crazy. I think Eagles fans are crazy. My God. Wrestling
fans are savage. There's no doubt.
Oh my God. And they don't like that I went after Tony, who I like, and he knows I like personally. And I think he's a good
guy. Are you in the crosshairs because of this too?
Oh God, yeah. But it's funny because I went to Raw on Monday night. Raw was in Philly on Monday night. So I went to Raw Monday night, and full disclosure, because I was invited. I was invited by WWE, not because of that. Had nothing to do with that.
No, you have a lot of connections in that industry,
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
And, somebody from AEW contacted me after the story came out, who's also a very good person. And I explained why I wrote the story, why it's a story. And when they're in Philly, I'm going to go to AEW. So you have this big tribalistic fan base, who, WWE is obviously huge. I mean, but you got a lot of and you got a lot of AEW hardcore fans. It's like the hardest of hardcore Eagles fans who just, if you say one bad thing about them, will shit on you to no end. So that's where we are. But it's a big story.
AEW super fan. It's like being a Mets super fan.
But there's a lot of them.
I know. It's funny, though. The WWE is actually sick. I'm not even a wrestling guy. WWE is a sick brand. It's huge.
Yeah, it's a monster.
Watching their production. I'm a production guy. I love live production. I mean, watching WWE's production with the lights, the fire, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a monster brand. But yeah, so it created some controversy. Look, you can't, if you're an owner, you can't try to silence an agent, even if the agent is being unfair to you. You can't do it.
Yeah, that's bad luck. Wow, interesting. I'm going to have to get the follow-up on that story. Here's our gravy. Eagles are a circus. Fire lame duck Sirianni now. Lame duck. Oh, man. It does feel a little bit like he's a lame duck. I'm not going to lie. Now, he could be successful and not be.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, lame duck to me means you got 1 year left on your contract, and which very rarely, even dumb organizations don't do that with head coaches anymore because too much can go wrong. But a lot, as we've seen this year, better than most, bigger than most. If you don't perform in the NFL, people are very impatient, and so I don't think he's a literal lame duck, but yeah, if he doesn't perform this season, he's probably out.
Gravy, thanks for the super. Here's Gravy again. Reports that Landon Dickerson considering retirement per the Philly Inquirer ? Yeah, so Gravy, we did talk about that extensively in the opening segment. But yeah, pretty crazy. Landon Dickerson could be. I don't think he will, but.
Yeah, it's all dependent, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, and we've debated, and I've mentioned Landon pretty consistently. It was troubling the way he talked after the loss to San Francisco, and he's clearly, and seeing him all season, he had a very, very difficult season from a health standpoint. Started in training camp when he went down at the open practice on Lincoln Financial Field, and we were all concerned it might be a season-ending injury.
Right.
He went from one injury to another to another. He had a knee, he had an ankle, he had a back. It was just everything. And he had a very difficult season. So he's got to recharge the batteries and figure out where he is health-wise. Anybody could retire for health purposes in this league at any point because it's a dangerous league still.
Put a percentage on it, John.
I'm at 70-30. He'll be back.
30 is still pretty good. So he could be gone for a 27-year-old. I mean,
I'll go 80-20. I'm doing
80-20. Well, I don't want. I mean, hey, you stick.
I think he's going to be back. I think I've seen this a lot where people have difficult seasons because of injuries, and they feel like they don't want to do this ever again. And they go, like I said, that's the difference between Philadelphia and somewhere else. You recede into the background, and you get better, and you recharge the batteries, and you say, all right, I'm ready to go. I think that's going to happen here, but I don't have his x-rays or his MRIs either. There was a reason he was drafted in the second round instead of the first round, because he came into this with two ACLs and probably everyone realizing this guy was going to have a shorter shelf life than other people because of injury concerns.
Still was worth it, man, for the time we've had with him. He's been pretty damn amazing as a player.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Here's Vitality. What's up, Vitality? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Feeling like we're going to roll out a similar roster for a couple of years in this new system that's not built for the I think you meant for the scheme, in hopes it all works out. Probably going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, I'm still of the mentality that Nick is rope-a-doping these people. And when he gets to Sunday, week 1, if it's on the Sunday, you get the point, though. He's going to try to win the game. He's never deterred from that mindset. And I think he'll revert back to that mindset.
Well, we will see. Should be interesting. What are your thoughts on if they do switch? What Vitality is saying here about basically the roster is not built for what they're trying to change to?
Well, yeah, I've said that a dozen times already. I don't understand it. It's not you've gotten this core collection of players to build in what you're doing, and you've done a very good job with it. Unfortunately, defensively, it's worked. So nobody talks about the defense, understandably so. But it did when that small Vic Fangio retirement wind blew through.
Yeah.
And people started bringing up, well, they're talking to Jim Schwartz. I was saying, well, why do you want Jim Schwartz? I love Jim Schwartz. Anybody who knows, I think he's great, but he plays a different style, and you've just built this high group of people to play Vic's style. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Well, that's what's going on offense. You built this group to be the run heavy. Like, to me, I get nobody likes it. I get it. I get it's not aesthetic. I get it's not pretty. But to me, you instead of ripping out the whole furnace, you just make one tweak and say, all right, let's not be quite risk averse and see how that works. And also get the offensive line healthy and run the ball better. And be a little bit less risk averse. And I think you're right back to winning 13 games. And you're in the conversation with the best teams in football that are going to play on Sunday. Now you're trying to be better at what Kyle Shanahan does than Kyle Shanahan. What's that? Like, I have a big logic problem from the standpoint of the average person. Like, what about that makes sense? That's like somebody going out and getting the Sean Mannion of defense and saying, go do what Vic does and be better at it than Vic. Which you already tried with Sean Desai.
Yeah, it didn't work so well.
I'm not saying, because now people will say I think Sean Mannion is Sean Desai. But you get my point. I don't
get your point.
I don't like copycats. I've never liked copycats. Give me the original.
The problem is, how many ways are there to do it? How many ways?
There's a lot more ways to do it than Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, which the whole fucking league seems to think is the only way to do it. You're in the groupthink mindset now, and that's the last
or they
place
think it's
you
the
want
best
to
way,
be.
not the only way. They think it's the best way. And hey, I don't, maybe they're not.
Where's
right.
the logic in that? That's what I'm asking. Where's the logic in that? If it is the best, it might be the best way, because I've said for years now that Kyle Shanahan is by far the best play designer in football. And number 2 is not close. Same thing I say about Vic on defense. Best in the business, and number 2 is not close. So, all right, if you can get me Kyle Shanahan, I'm on board. If you can't, I'm going to try to figure out something that works for me, which the Eagles had done, and now they're shifting into groupthink. Well, we got to do it this way. which is ironic to me because they've had more success, team success.
Right. We'll see if it works, Vitality. John, good stuff there. Here's Pin. What's up, Pin? Lurie and Howie will get a dose of reality with Stoutland's departure. Their success was not solely based on managing the cap and contract extensions.
Well, I mean, I would ask Pin 9617 that did you want them to change the offense? You did. Most people do in this chat. I'm not saying it by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you wanted them to change the offense, Jeff wasn't on board with where they were going with the offense. So, which do you want?
Pin, thank you, brother. Appreciate the super chat. Here is Fleming. What's up, Ryan? Fleming. Current personnel running this scheme without turnovers is not likely. The front office is putting both knee pad Nick and Jalen Hurts to the fire, Jalen writes.
Knee pad Nick. Yeah, I don't think it fits the quarterback. I don't think it fits the running back. I don't think it fits the offensive line. But other than that, I'm sure it'll be fine.
We'll see what happens. Here's Shady Westbrook. What's up, Shady? Risk averse is coddling Jalen. So he disagrees with you saying that you don't think they coddle Jalen.
I don't think Jalen wants to be that risk averse. Coddling to me is, we have a different definition of coddling. Coddling to me is you're acquiescing to what the player wants to do. Coddling is Joel Embiid, and what the Sixers have done with him. And even though he's playing phenomenal, which I never thought would happen again, so I give him credit, but they've coddled him throughout his career. You're assuming coddling is protecting him from turnovers. I just think the Eagles believe that if they don't turn the ball over, they're going to win. And I think it's unfair, and I've said it pretty consistently to Jalen Hurts, if anything. And I don't think unfair is part of coddling.
We'll see. Shady, good stuff. Appreciate the super. Here's William. William, what's up, man? Thanks for the $20 super chat. Fellas, if, and I'm saying if, Jalen doesn't want to run and they want to protect their $50 million investment by not running so much, what do you do but go full steam ahead? There really isn't no way around it. We'll see.
Well, number one, whomever is responsible for Jalen Hurts is not running. And I can't get a clear answer to that. That person or persons has to be convinced that if they want to win at the highest level, that's got to be put back into the equation, period. And if it's about protecting your investment, well, you're going to blow it all anyway, because you're going to move on and you're going to eat the dead money to move on. So, take advantage of the shelf life when you have the shelf life. That's how I look at it.
All right, good stuff there. William. Gravy, what's up, Gravy? Name one Philly sports team with a bright future. Oh, no.
Who has the brightest future? Well, the Flyers, Xander can talk about the Flyers. I'm not a hockey guy, but obviously they're not doing well. Sixers have some nice talent, young talent, but Joel, I can't believe in him long term from a health perspective. So, I mean, once he does leave, whenever that is, or can't play, I don't think that's great. The Phillies are sort of stuck in, they're a good team, not a great team. And they're never going to get past the Dodgers. Although I don't think, supposedly Armageddon's coming in baseball, and they're going to, and we lost Xander. We'll see if that's my end of the bargain or his. And I'm sorry about the double screen, but hopefully he can jump back on pretty quickly. but I'll keep going. The Phillies to me look like, if there is Armageddon in baseball, that, and there's a salary cap and things become more even and the Dodgers can't do what the Dodgers are doing, I think the Eagles are probably the closest. The Phillies are probably the closest. But I said, I don't like the way the Eagles are going from the standpoint of changing their philosophy, which we talked a lot about this show. I don't think it fits the talent they have, but in football, remember, you can change the talent really quickly. It doesn't look optimal right now, but it can become optimal. So I think the Eagles have the front office that has proven that they could pivot in getting back, because remember, if you go back to Super Bowl 52, and then you talk about Super Bowl 57 and Super Bowl 59, you know, you have different coaches, different quarterbacks, a tremendous turnover in talent. So yeah, I think the Eagles have proven that they can pivot the best. But the problem is you're going to have some lean times. It may only be a year. It may only be 2 years, but I think the Eagles have proven that they can get back into it. And Xander's tweeting me. His internet dropped. I can get rid of the graphic. I'm doing stuff on the air. I can get rid of the graphic in the brand section. Now, I'll tell this to people who are listening. Xander presumes I know what the hell he's talking about with the brand section. So that is not something that he's the producer of this thing, not me. So I have no idea how to remove that part of it. But yeah, we'll keep going. So our gravy 7305, which is, this is a shit show at the Buck Factory, which I do think things get overblown in Philadelphia. I think that's a real thing. I think that's, and again, I talked about it a little bit with the reason this show exists, the reason Jeff is doing podcasts now, the reason, you know, a lot of these other shows have popped up, because you guys, the fan base, is so passionate. You want this constant stream of Eagles news, which is great, but it creates this extra layer of, you know, angst and whether you want to call it urgency from their perspective, that a lot of other teams don't have to deal with. So that's part of it. I don't think it's a shit show from the standpoint of this is common in the NFL from the standpoint of when things don't go well, you know, it's called the pendulum theory, you go in the other direction. So obviously the offense didn't go well and they're going into another direction. Now, whether you agree with that or disagree with that, I think depends on how you frame it. I think most people, probably 95%, maybe even more of people, would agree that they needed to change the offense. And that's all anybody talked about during the season. Then when you get into some of the ugliness of changing the offense, which is the Jeff Stoutland stuff, and saying, well, oh, by the way, here's the unintended consequences, or the start of the unintended consequences. I think people start to turn and say, how could you get rid of, there's so many people who say, how could you get rid of Jeff Stoutland? Well, if he's not on board with those offensive changes you guys all wanted, that's how you get rid of Jeff Stoutland. And even that is not framing it the right way, because the Eagles did want him back as the offensive line coach, and he wanted to go in a different direction because he didn't want to be on board with what they're doing. Simply, to put it as simply as possible. Now, who's right? I think for the talent on hand at this moment, because they were built for the prior offense, Jeff is right. But is that the long-term answer? There's got to be some difficult times. The old adage to take a step back, to take two forward, that's where the Eagles might be. But the problem is, how patient are the Eagles going to be if they take another step back? Because remember, 11 wins, NFC East Championship, week 1 playoff loss is not acceptable. And you're taking another step back from that unacceptable finish. Maybe it looks like 8 wins. Maybe it looks like 9 wins. Maybe you don't make the playoffs. Is everyone going to have the patience to say, well, this was a growing period. Now maybe they draft well for this offense. Maybe they bring in players who fit this offense. Maybe they keep getting better and better. In a year or two, you take those 2 steps forward. That's a possibility. But I think for right now, in the immediacy, and it's not about the immediacy. It's about, it's about winning now. That's what the Eagles have created. And I think everybody's so disappointed because they look at what's about to unfold on Sunday and say, boy, if the Eagles played just like a little bit better on offense, they could beat the New England Patriots. If they played just a little bit better on offense, they could beat the Seattle Seahawks. So I think that's the framework everybody's at. But they didn't. They didn't play to that level. And is it from all the success that they've had over the past 5 seasons? I don't know. Is it worth completely shifting away from that? I get the aesthetics part of it. I get the people that want to see a more entertaining product. But I think, as I've said from the start, be careful what you wish for. From a logic standpoint, I don't understand the idea of doing what everybody else does. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I mentioned that before. I don't want the copycat. I don't want the Xerox copy. I want the original. So if you can get me Kyle Shanahan, by all means, I want to run the Kyle Shanahan offense. But you can't get me that. And now you're trying to replicate it with Sean Mannion and Josh Broussard and some of the other coaches they're going to bring in. I don't know if that's the way to go. But we'll see how that unfolds as we go deeper into the offseason. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of personnel discussions as well. Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, all of it is in the equation as far as, are guys going to be more willing to move on or more wanting to move on? Dallas Goedert, I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, guess what? He already took a $4 million financial haircut to come back last season. Now he's got the opportunity at 31 to make one last, probably 2-year contract at significant money. He's coming off a big year when it comes to touchdowns, even though had a down year when it comes to the other aspect of the position, maybe the more important aspect as far as the Eagles were concerned, the blocking part of it. So he was unlikely to come back anyway. But now that Jason Michael's not here and you've moved on from his good friend and longtime position coach, it probably makes it even less likely. We've been talking about AJ and we'll continue to talk about AJ throughout the offseason. I think the Eagles are going to try to talk him back for at least one more season simply because of the cap ramifications, but that's easier said than done. maybe Sean Mannion can convince him that he's going to significantly change the offense, and that could help in that regard. It's going to be interesting to see how Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson take Jeff Stoutland walking away. But I do think a lot of the players were on board with the fact that they need